call today. We really appreciate it. Today is our home office knowledge management series, which is really quarterly. Our home office marketing team is spearheading a call with the field, and they're kind of set up similar to the Marketing Affinity calls, but a little bit different. And we invite outside speakers to present and kind of do quick information and tidbits of information and share out. So we'll go ahead and get started with the agenda. Today we'll cover announcements and celebrations, as well as the marketing meetings calendar. I know there's been a lot of movement with home office and the meetings that we have available, so we just want to take a couple minutes to walk through that so everyone's in the loop. And then we've also invited Hyperdisk to join us today to talk about maximizing content and imagery and optimizing banners. So I'm excited to hear what they're going to share. Fiona's going to give us an update on Wing. If you're not familiar with Wing, Wing is the new name for OfferPop, and she's going to be sharing the content calendar as well. And then we're going to have Revinate actually present too on reputation management and the impacts on guest buying behavior. So some really great content. And then we'll leave a couple of minutes at the end for Q&A. So announcements and celebrations, our favorite part. So we wanted to welcome a couple two marketing associates to our company. So first I want to welcome Kathy Lacey from L'Auberge Del Mar. She's our new marketing manager. She just started in mid-April and has experience with 10 Media, Curves, and Welch Resorts. Her strengths include digital strategy, content creation, integrated marketing, and branding. She's very involved in her community and loves spending time with her family. So we're looking forward to seeing what she does with L'Auberge and working with Annalise and Bob Harder. So welcome, Kathy. And then we also want to welcome Haley Astruis from Town & Country. She's our new social media, e-commerce, and content event coordinator. She's been at the property for 2 weeks and already making a great impact. She has a background in content marketing, social media, worked with 2 news agencies, a book publisher, a music therapy nonprofit, and an award-winning film production company. So I think we all know Town & Country is going through a pretty major renovation, so we're excited to see what she does at the property. And then I wanted just to ask, was there anyone else that we wanted to welcome that I didn't mention today? Just want to make sure we cover everyone. No? Okay, perfect. And then I'm going to turn it over to Sarah, who can talk about Keela.
Yay, I'm so excited to announce Keela, the marketing coordinator here at the Embassy Row Hotel, has been promoted after being with us for a year to marketing manager, and Keela has done a tremendous job picking up the hospitality industry, which she had not worked in before. She picks up marketing books, hospitality books, just wants to be an expert in the field, and is also a graphic designer on the side, and she designs for Sweet Potato Cake, which is sold at Starbucks and Nordstrom. So we're so lucky to have Keela, and she's now a marketing manager overseeing the Embassy Row Hotel and the Hepburn, which is a luxury high-rise apartment buildings in DuPont, also a low property. So expanding and bridging the gap between destination and low, and just wanted to congratulate Keela.
Thank you, Sarah.
Congratulations.
No, this was a surprise, so thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
As we can tell by the picture.
Yeah,
Right.
it's a great picture.
Thank you.
So again, welcome, Kathy, Haley, and congratulations, Keela. You and excited to work with all of you. So we also want to take a quick moment to talk about open marketing positions. There's quite a bit. So if you're interested in moving or possibly evaluating another opportunity, we just wanted to make sure everybody's aware of what's out there. So Carmel's still looking for a marketing manager. And then Sarah just told me yesterday she filled her social media and PR coordinator, so we'll be excited to welcome that individual on our next call. And then Tierney is looking for a marketing coordinator, a digital marketing manager, and a director of Marcom. Thompson Nashville is also looking for a marketing manager. Wild Dunes is looking for an assistant marketing manager. And then at Two Roads, we have 2 open positions, a social media manager and a CRM coordinator. So if you're interested, go to the website and definitely let us know.
And actually, to add on to Katie for the Two Roads, Justin will be sending out an email to the field later today, but we are looking for a web content manager as well. That's going to be helping on the content side for really the JTV, Thompson, Two Roads, and a little bit of destination. So if you're interested in that, that's already posted on the career site, but we'll send out an email with the exact job description later to the field.
Very exciting. Okay, perfect. So moving on to the marketing meetings calendar. So I mentioned we've been making a lot of changes with our meetings that we're hosting from the home office, and really we want to make sure that we provide opportunity for education, training, and then just overall support. So bear with us as we kind of get the structure down, but we wanted to make sure we reiterate when we're available in some of the meetings that we've coordinated. So from a monthly standpoint, we have our Marketing Affinity calls, which are obviously monthly, the first Thursday of the month. And then we also, on a monthly basis, have Thompson brand calls as well as JDV brand calls. Excuse me, those are quarterly. And the destination are also quarterly. Then we also have open office hours, and hopefully some of you are attending these calls, but they take place weekly. So the CRM call happens on Tuesdays. It's an hour call, and it's really a chance for you to call in and talk to Sarah and Nancy and just any questions that you may have. Definitely use that opportunity to ask questions, ask for additional training, but they're there for you during those hours. And then on Wednesday, we have a digital open hours, which includes Stacy, Daisy, Isaac, Justin, Alex, and the first 30 minutes of that call is training. And Daisy and Stacy sent out a calendar last week with that schedule, but a really great way to learn about new tools, resources, some of your business listings, and then they'll also have 60 minutes where you can just ask questions. And what we want to do is, if you have a question, most likely the field has the same question, so it's a great opportunity just to bring up anything you might want to ask, and I'm sure there's others that have similar questions. So, and then last but not least, we also are going to be introducing a sales marketing revenue, so that's SMR, State of the Union, and we'll be having those quarterly, and that will just be a chance for us to talk about what we're doing from a Two Roads perspective as well as the brand. So we'll be inviting everyone to that call soon. Any questions about the meetings? I know they're kind of moving, but hopefully this gives you an idea of when we're available and some of the training and education opportunities that we're providing. Okay, perfect. Well, thank you. I'm going to actually now turn it over to Stephen at Hyperdisk, who's going to be talking about experiential design and banners. Stephen, I'm going to turn over the controls to you.
Perfect. Well, good morning and good afternoon, depending on your time zone. My name is Stephen Sagers with Hyperdisk Marketing. I'm the president. I'm also with my colleague, Jeff Johnson. It's great to be on with you all, and congratulations to the new team members, and obviously we're thrilled to have a slotted amount of time in this very dense agenda today. So thank you all, and I want to keep this upbeat and fast moving, so I'm going to run through my presentation, and then certainly I think we'll have perhaps some opportunity at the end for some Q&A, and then I'm going to hand it over to Fiona to dive right into her content piece as well. So let me start off by saying, look, we have almost 50 people on the call. And I think we all agree that we all come from a grounded set of experiences in hospitality and marketing. But look, we're in a world that's filled with performance expectations. I'm a marketing guy. We're a full-service global digital agency, and I have yet to be on a marketing call in the past 15 years where the marketing conversation doesn't immediately dissolve into filling holes, driving ADR, looking at RevPAR index, and immediately diving into performance expectations that are either set by management, asset management, or owners. So when we get into sort of this fluffy conversation about experiential design and banners, I want to start off by saying that this is 100% predicated on the understanding that those things are very important. But I think we have to remember why we're all in this business. And we're in this business, hopefully, to create happiness. And if we do that, that will inherently support the underlying business objective, which is generally driving revenue, NOI, RevPAR increases, all that fun stuff. So I think it's important to sort of look at what it is that we're trying to do in this business. Love takes up where knowledge leaves off. And I love this quote by Thomas Aquinas because I think that it speaks to what it is that we're hopefully doing as marketers, which is creating love. That certainly the orientation of what we need to do as players in hospitality is focus on the emotional part of why consumers make buying decisions. Not we're making decisions because of rate, or we're making decisions because of concessions. So very quickly, that's me, the bald guy on the left. Jeff Johnson's also with me. I will admit these photos were taken 20 years ago, but I will say that we look exactly the same. Hopefully, we're just as, so I just want to say that up front. Look, the reality is what sells? Emotion sells. Two Roads as a brand, I think, has predicated themselves on differentiating by being a company that's very much focused on lifestyle and on creating unique experiences for guests. All people are happier when spending money on living rather than goods. This isn't just a statement, this is fact. Every study, whether done by psychologists or done by marketers, indicate that individuals will spend more on experiential goods than they will on hard goods. And that's very good for us in the hotel business. Over the next 5 years, total spending in experiential buying will grow by 22% for those non-essential categories. We are in the non-essential category. Our good is not necessary. We are in the most discretionary business, but the oldest business. So it's important that we recognize that, look, in a non-essential category, what differentiates us is not the from rate. What differentiates us is the experiences. So let's keep in mind, as I mentioned at the outset, the focus that we're all in is we are all pounded by owners, we're pounded by asset managers, and we're pounded by our general managers and by our management company to achieve certain objectives. And that usually is about selling. Sell, sell, sell. And what that leads to is stagnant creative, lack of engagement, and lower click-throughs. So I wanted to give two particular examples. I wanted to give the very high 5-star example of the Broadmoor, and I wanted to give the very low example of a Holiday Inn because I felt that it speaks to the underlying dynamic of transactional trapping. Frankly, when I look at these two pieces of marketing materials, they're not distinguishable whatsoever. We have a 5-star asset selling at a 2-star orientation, and we have a 2-star orientation selling at a 2-star orientation. So it's important for us to recognize that we have to be better than this. And the reality is in marketing, too much of our calls are being focused on what do we need to do on rate, what offer do we need to create, what's that offer look like, and how do we get it into the market quickly, as opposed to saying, how do we make the consumer laugh? How do we make the consumer smile? How do we create happiness? How do we create something that the psyche of someone that sees what it is that we're trying to get them to see and react to? And that's the critical orientation that we need to focus on as a brand and as individual hoteliers for our individual assets. And I'm going to assume that the beeping that I'm hearing is, every beep that I hear is you're liking what I have to say. So that's good. So let's talk about what connects with our customer. You know, Skift Research put this together, and they looked at the high-end luxury audience, and they're basically saying, what am I most interested in? And I'm not going to read all of this, but look at what most of the consumers are interested in. Experiences that show me a new perspective of the world. Trying new restaurants and culinary experiences. Exploring local neighborhoods to discover unique places. I mean, isn't this what makes Two Roads great? Isn't this the collection of our brands? Isn't this what makes each of you at the hotel level different and special? What you bring to those three core areas. So let's keep that in mind as we begin to then craft our style, our material, and our photography in design. Let's give something unexpected. Again, when you look at on the scale of what's important in terms of transformative travel experiences, on a scale of 1 to 10, you'll notice that the vast majority scale towards transformative travel experiences. That's what drives the emotional input that a consumer wants to buy and book and click and engage. Transformative travel experiences. So here's a great example of a destination property that's doing just that, creating emotion. Emotion is what drives clicks. Emotion is what creates brand recall. We want to create those connections. Yes, we want to be true to our brand and to our ethos, but let's keep in mind, it's not always about the offer. So when the revenue manager tells you what moved last year, that doesn't necessarily mean what moved last year is what we need to do this year. It means that we know that they activated on a certain offer, but it doesn't mean we need to put an offer out. So in the example of creating emotion here, the emotion we're trying to create in this example with Cliff House is how we're transforming the consumer from winter into spring.
Can I just ask everyone to please mute your phone? Thank you.
How we're transforming the consumer into the winter to spring and creating that emotional connection. So that ultimately, when the consumer then sees the interactivity of what we're presenting, it's about it's about you as the consumer seeing yourself in that space. You see yourself here in winter, and you see yourself here in spring. It's not about the offer, it's about the emotional connection. Then taking that emotion connectivity and what I call creating those flow moments. We all know Flo from her dizzying amount of TV commercials. But what is Flo creating? Flo is creating a personality that we are connecting with. The same way that the personality of the individuals in lifestyle are creating connections with the consumer because you want to see yourself as that consumer. So creating connections between what we're presenting in banners into email and into the web experience is what allows us to create those flow moments, which directly impacts revenue and directly impacts our ability to be impactful and memorable. Capturing moments. Let's have fun. Yes, there's transactional orientations, but let's A/B orientations. Let's create brand experiences and let's create transactional experiences. But let's be fun. Let's poke fun at ourselves. Let's create things that are different and unique. As in the example of Carmel Valley Ranch, right? Do you have spring fever? And yes, you do. And hopefully that spring fever is meaningful to you. And yes, it just so happens we have 15% off. But the 15% off is irrelevant to the message of experiential selling. Driving the brand. This summer bucket list promotion, yes, there is a hook, but the reality is the hook here is not the 30% off. The hook is the experience. It's what's on your summer bucket list. What drives you emotionally to want to make a buying decision, which in most cases makes no logical sense whatsoever. Buying a hotel room at $1,000 or $1,500 or $5,000 a night does not make sense. But what does make sense is the experience that is everlasting. So when you look at what is your summer bucket list, Machu Picchu, Africa, the tropics. That's what's meaningful. The hook is secondary to the meaningful interaction that we create emotionally with the consumer. And then, of course, let's not forget the marketing side of us is fluffy and creative, but test everything. The assumptions that we make in marketing are often emotionally driven just as much as we emotionally drive those connections with our guests. Ultimately, we want to know what drives the consumer. And even though these two very, very similar orientations of creative have very similar attributes, the performance differential can be vast. Same offer, similar creative orientation of photography, but a vastly different orientation of performance and upside. So yes, we can create emotional connections, and yes, we can drive revenue. Both of those things are not disparate marketing opportunities. Last two slides relate to curation. One size does not fit all. So when we look at creating emotional connections with our guests and potential guests, let's look at it from a market segmentation standpoint. The Long Island multi-generational buyer, from the romance individual, the couple, to the local regional customer, are all very different customers, which we want to appeal to differently. And so how we stratus emotional connections should in fact be different. So yes, we want a one-size-fits-all, but in many cases that may not work. So testing that, creating opportunities beyond revenue to orient the customer regionally and tactically really will help all of us be much more successful in marketing, in supporting our strategic efforts, and in improving our performance. So with that, I will say the things that we love tell us what we are. And I think that that's a very important in recognizing that we have to understand our customer, understand that the customer that we want should hopefully love what we have to offer. Knowing what they love will help drive the messaging and the creative, and those things will help substantially improve what you're doing in market, as opposed to what the other more commoditized, as I mentioned, Broadmoors and Holiday Inns of the world aren't doing, which is creating the connectivity, the emotion, the love, which is what separates great brands from mediocre brands. So before I turn it over to Fiona, if there's any questions, I'll leave it open. I don't know if there is time for questions, but Fiona, I will transition to your slides in a moment.
Thank you. I did have a quick question.
Please.
So we all have digital agencies. How does that work, bringing your company in to complement and partner with our current existing digital agencies? I love what you did here. Just want to know further how we kind of pull you into that scenario.
Yeah, Sarah, and I can help answer that question. So, one of the things that we've done, that we do each year is we look at the different agencies, and Hyperdisk is one of the preferred agencies that you could work with. So just like you have Sabre, Location 3, and Screen Pilot, Hyperdisk is the new agency that's filling that fourth spot. So we have some information we'll be sending out on Hyperdisk as well. So more to come there.
Thank you.
Stephen, it's Maureen. I have a question too. I thought that was great. And just a kind of a quick question too, because you're talking about doing A/B testing and creating various ads and seeing what's really resonates with the customer. A lot of the ads that you're showing, they are very emotive. It's, people enjoying the outside or having drinks or whatever it is.
and you don't know where they are. I mean, they could be at Cliff House or they could be at Old Palm Beach. So what you're really suggesting is that somebody's going to click on that ad just because it resonates with them, and then after they click through, then they're going to better understand what that product is. Not necessarily click on Cliff House or Old Palm Beach. We're getting them to connect with the experience. So I'm asking if that's your recommendation. And secondly, just because we have so many ownership groups now who are an integral part of our, digital media planning process, would you suggest, just hypothetically, that we always do 2 ads, sort of a transactional ad and an emotive ad, and do the A/B testing and show them, so that because they're, we're educating a lot of our ownership groups to what works and what doesn't work, and obviously we're building our brands and using our brands to sell our product, but then sometimes they're big proponents of, transactional selling. So I loved what you presented. I just wanted that clarified.
Yeah, thanks, Maureen. I think we would always recommend A/B testing, and I realize that sometimes with timeliness in the issue of speed, sometimes that's not always taken into account. But I think it is important. I mean, frankly, it's important to have A, B, C, D tests, right? To really test what's in market. But look, at the end of the day, we all have varied properties with varied budget and timelines and things that are long tail, short tail orientations. I think the greatest level of importance, Maureen, to answer your first question is that absolutely. I mean, the carrying through the brand experience, into the individual hotel web experience is critical. That creating that connection, and understanding that look, the needs, as I mentioned, the needs of defined revenue generation are not at odds with the emotive part of why a consumer would wants to click through. And in fact, as we all know, statistically speaking, we're not necessarily, particularly with these banners that I illustrated, at the end of the day, as we all know, there's no such thing as a single click buyer, right? That doesn't exist. The reality is the consumer has dozens of choices, and they're researching and dreaming and deciding what to buy and book. And so what these banners are doing is stimulating demand and hopefully funneling their demand to the individual asset or brand. And so the most important thing is not even necessarily the click-through. It's the brand recall. And it's understanding that as part of their buying decision, they're using the search engine, they're using meta search, they're using banners, they're researching, they're clicking, and this banner is reinforcing the larger campaign initiative that all the properties have in market. And so this becomes one of several touch points. But the meaningful part of this touch point is the close. If you can connect with the consumer emotionally, if you can create the love, if you can create the differentiation, then when it comes time to book, which will lead them to typing brand or going to a search engine or using meta search or any other end of funnel mechanism, your brand will become top of mind.
That's a great point of ensuring that brand consistency. Thank you.
All right, Fiona, I will hand it over to you.
Thank you. I'll let you control just because I have 2 slides. So if you could just go to the next slide, that would be great. So, hi everyone. I think I've spoken with a lot of you on the social media calls. But one thing that I wanted to just touch on briefly at the end of the great presentation from Hyperdisk was, as we're talking about creating inspiring content, this is something that we have covered again on the social media call, but just a reminder about Wing. So Wing was formerly known as OfferPop. They rebranded, and it is a required program for most hotels, except there's a few that have opted out, but those are just exceptions. And the reason that we really make this a required program and we think it's really great for you is there's so many things that you can do with Wing. But what I'm going to talk about right now is just the ability to pull in user-generated content. So we hear all the time, that your photography is limited or you don't have the budget to do a full photo shoot, and we understand that. And part of the beauty of Wing is that you can put in a specific hashtag So whatever your hotel's name is, or if you have an F&B outlet, or any kind of hashtag that you want to pull in photos, and there is a widget that Wing provides that can actually go directly onto your website. So that being said, I just want to put it out there that Wing is a very powerful tool, and it gives you the ability to create and curate inspiring user-generated content that is being taken at your hotels, and then display it, whether you want to display it on your social media or your website. And the images that we're looking at here, this is from Terranea, and they talked about this, I think, 2 social media calls ago, but they used the Wing platform to help launch their new restaurant on site, and in partnership with influencers as well, but a lot of these were user-generated content photos, and they actually created a standalone website pulling in all of those images under the specific hashtag. But just a reminder, that Wing is there. There are many things you can do. If you need training on Wing, please reach out to me directly, and I can put you in touch with our account rep. But everyone should have an understanding of Wing and all it has to offer, especially as it's a program that we are now signed into until next May. So I definitely encourage you to take advantage of all that Wing can offer. And then, Stephen, do you want to go to the next slide? So this is just another thing when we're talking about content. I just wanted to share an example of a content calendar that we have been using on the Thompson and JDV sides for a while. And I also touched on this a while ago on our social media call, but we find that creating a content calendar with themes, similarly to what we see here, and these are kind of ongoing evergreen themes, is a great way to help you organize and create your content. So rather than just logging in every day and figuring, like, what am I going to post today, this is a really nice way to map out what are we always going to talk about. And this is an example from our hotel, the Troubadour in New Orleans. And I wanted to show what we're always going to talk about. This is this kind of content that we always talk about. And then we create content calendars in 2-month chunks. So for May and June, you would focus on what is specifically happening in addition to all of this ongoing content. What are we going to talk about in May and June? So we're going to talk about Mother's Day. We're going to talk about Memorial Day. We're going to talk about the Jazz Fest in New Orleans. Whatever is relevant to your market or whatever holidays are happening, that's where we would build out the specific tactics, objectives, and tactics for those months. But in terms of like trying to create inspiring content and really having a strategy behind it, I highly recommend the content calendar as a way to structure and organize your content. So that's it for me. Are there any questions about these 2 items?
Perfect. Thanks, Fiona.
No problem.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's Isaac. Next, I wanted to introduce Carrie Murphy with Revinate. She's the marketing content manager, and she's going to be taking us through some stats and some best practices within Revinate, and more just industry specific on the importance of monitoring reviews. And she's going to jump into this, and just so everybody knows, for next Wednesday's office hours, I will be doing more of a deep dive into how to use this specific tool. This is more a high-level conversation. Carrie, take it away.
Great, thank you. Thank you. Hi, everyone. As he said, my name is Carrie Murphy, and I'm a marketing specialist at Revinate, which, as many of you know, is a software-as-a-service company that's focused exclusively on hospitality. So we work with over 32,000 hotels worldwide, and one of the best parts of my job is helping hoteliers find different ways to move the needle by writing and speaking about the latest research and industry trends and best practices. So today I'm going to talk about the latest in online reputation and how it impacts consumer buying behavior, because this is the age of the customer, which is highly important to recognize, as my CEO, Mark Heinecker, likes to say. If you're not doing things to prepare for the age of the customer, you will no longer be relevant. And if anyone of you has met my CEO, maybe not likely, but what he's really saying is you won't be around in the next 10 years if you're not taking steps to modernize your business for today's customer. So now what do I mean by the age of the customer? So if you think about the overall market 100 years ago, building products and service at scale was really hard. But if you got it right, you could decrease costs and grow quickly to meet your markets. So that was the age of manufacturing. Once you've saturated your local market, you want to expand nationally or globally. And this is why the next period became the age of distribution, where the brands that were winning were those that scaled quickly and could distribute their products all over the world. Next came the age of information. Now that your product or service was available all over the world and people have access to your product or services, now the most important currency was information, the internet, right? And every brand had to build a web page that consumers can go to. And that heralded the age that we're in now, which is the age of the customer. So today, the customer or guest in hospitality has access to supply all over the world and can use information and data to help them make the right buying decisions for what they need with confidence. So when we talk about this, how does this affect hospitality? So today, in the age of the customer, travelers are constantly connected and they share everything. So you may have seen these stats before, as it's from a Focusrite survey from a few years ago, but it remains accurate. 93% of travelers say online reviews have an impact on their booking decisions. And this isn't becoming any less true over time. This isn't going away. Fortunately, this isn't necessarily a bad thing for hotels. As we looked at data in our own systems, over 70 million reviews published online worldwide in 2015 and 2016, and found that the vast majority of hotel reviews is positive. So 80% of all reviews globally are 4- or 5-star reviews, and less than 10% are negative or 1- or 2-star reviews. So that's not necessarily a bad thing that all this stuff is going online. It's actually it's a very good thing for your hotel, considering the effect that it has on travelers' buying decisions. There's more. Consumers who look at online reviews expect public management responses. 68% say that when considering two comparable or competitive properties, the presence of management responses on one of those properties would sway me in its favor. And it's in the interest of the hotel to take advantage of this, especially with regard to negative reviews, as 79% of consumers say that they are reassured by a management response to a bad review. And this isn't just about self-reported consumer feelings either, because this is the start of a prospective guest interaction with your hotel reading online reviews. There is a direct relationship between reputation and bookings. Cornell University did a study on this, and the results were clear. For every 1-point increase in rating on a 5-point scale, hotel bookings increased by 14.2%. Additionally, hotels who were able to take advantage of this bookings increase and turn this into revenue were able to increase average daily rate by 11.2% without affecting bookings. So think about it from this perspective. If you're looking at this data, if you had a 4.0 rating and improved your rating to a 4.6, you could increase bookings by 8.5%, which goes to show that a small investment of time and resources in reputation management yields a high return on that investment. NYU also found that guest reviews had a significant impact on hotel conversion rates, as well as the rates that travelers are willing to pay. So given equal prices, travelers are 3.9 times more likely to choose a hotel with higher review scores. And then when hotel prices are increased for hotels with better review scores, 76% of travelers are more likely to book the hotel with the higher score despite the higher rate. And to really beat the dead horse on this one, TripAdvisor looked at its own data after releasing the bookings feature on its website and found that hotels that respond to reviews are 21% more likely to receive a booking than those that don't respond to any reviews. So all of this is just to say that online reviews aren't going away. They're highly influential in the booking process, and by responding to them, you can increase your own chances of receiving a booking. There is also data that shows that investing time and resources in not just paying attention to your reviews, but responding to them in a timely manner, up to a point, can have a significant revenue impact for your hotel. So Cornell put out a report just last year in which they analyzed thousands of reviews on TripAdvisor. And one of the things they found was that when looking at increase in revenue as a function of percentage of review responses, meaning that x-axis there represents the percentage of review responses from 0% onward, and comparing that to increases in revenue on the y-axis, that bookings revenue increases in relationship to review responses. And they found that this peaks at about a 2.2x revenue lift at about the 40 to 45% response rate in comparison to hoteliers that are not responding at all. So there are clear revenue benefits to spending time and resources on prioritizing responding to reviews, especially negative reviews, up to that 40 to 45% response rate. Now, what was surprising to us was that there were diminishing returns after that point. And this is where it's important to remember that taking a data-based approach to running a business is really important. When new data comes to light on what works and what doesn't work, it's important to take into account when it comes to your strategy. So as a result, we used to recommend that hotels respond to every review if they can, if possible, focusing more on the negative reviews. But if you think about it, given this new data, I think overall the goal is to show, of review responses, is to show prospective guests that you genuinely care about the guest experience at your hotel. And my take on this is perhaps responding to every review, two things maybe. Perhaps responding to every review becomes transparent in a negative way to consumers. Maybe it makes them think that you care more about how you look online than the actual guest experience. So maybe responding to too many reviews comes off as a little defensive. Or perhaps from another perspective, there are a lot of hotels with limited resources who are spending time replying to every review when perhaps that time is better spent doing something that directly affects the guest experience. It's about finding the right balance for your hotel and your resources. So as a result of this data, we now recommend that you focus primarily on 1- and 2-star reviews and mixed reviews, those 3- and 4-star reviews with maybe a few quibbles. And then very occasionally that glowing 5-star review where somebody gets on there and they mention staff by name, they mention very specific aspects of the their stay experience and are just really over the moon about what they experience with your brand. Really, ultimately it's up to you, but it depends on what the right balanced approach is for your hotel and your guests. So overall, though, if we look at this from the perspective of the life cycle of a guest and all the digital touch points that influence the relationship between a hotel and its guests, reviews and responding to reviews are one of those critical ways that influence the research phase with a prospective guest before that guest ever sets foot on your property. And before the digital age, this was not possible to the extent that it is now. So now reviews and responding to reviews are right up there with email as critical touch points for guests throughout the guest lifecycle. So what are your goals when responding to reviews? Well, first, you want to make sure you're focusing on your negative and mixed reviews. Pick a few positive reviews, but remember the Cornell data suggests that you'll see diminishing returns after that 40 to 45% response rate. So don't feel like you have to respond to everything. Second, by responding to negative reviews, you want to aim to minimize the damage that negative comments do to your hotel's reputation by recognizing that the guest had a negative experience. You want to make sure that you're apologizing for the negative experience, which is not necessarily an admission of wrongdoing, and following up, with any action items as a result of that. And as we said previously, a management response to a bad review, when crafted appropriately, reassures prospective guests. Third, you want to aim to recover service with unhappy guests. So one thing we hear sometimes is that these days guests don't always take a complaint to the front desk or to the management of a hotel. Sometimes they just go online to write a bad review. And sometimes simply by showing you care and perhaps that the experience was atypical, you can make things right with an unhappy guest. Finally, by responding to a few of those really standout 5-star reviews where someone really goes into detail about their stay, you can discover brand enthusiasts and turn them into promoters by responding. And that's a relationship that you definitely want to cultivate in the hopes that they'll book with you again someday. They'll sing your praises to all their friends online and in person. Yeah, so that's really, those are your response goals. And I am not going to go into detail today about how to respond to different types of reviews, because that'll take me a lot longer than the time we have. But if you're interested in some strategies for crafting responses, we're actually holding a webinar on the subject on May 9th. So I'll put my email up at the end of the presentation here, and you can feel free to email me. I'll send you some information on that. But before we finish up, I would like to look at some other benefits of really being aware of and involved in your online reputation other than what we've already talked about. So let's talk about how you can use your online reviews and leverage that data to optimize your services. And what do I mean when I say optimize services? Well, think about it, your reviews are really rich sources of data. They're a great way to learn about macro level trends about what your guests as a population are saying about your property. You can figure out what they like and what they dislike, see trends in the data to see areas where you might be able to improve or where you might be able to use some really cool features of your property in your marketing. So, for example, the reviews from this property, you can see that on a macro level, the ops team is doing really well. You know, the rooms are clean, the staff is welcoming. They're going so far as to supply earplugs because they know they're in a really noisy area. I'm sorry, can somebody mute?
Join us for our Stowe Weekend of Hope, May 5th through 7th. The 17th annual Stowe Weekend of Hope offers a healthy, inspirational retreat weekend for cancer survivors and their families. Throughout the weekend,
Are we okay?
Sorry about that.
I was like, wait,
that was no.
Hold on. Let me just like I wanted to make sure it wasn't me. I was like, uh-oh. That could be bad. Anyway, so to supply earplugs because they know their hotel is in a noisy area. So maybe later they can justify putting in soundproof windows or taking more expensive measures. But you know, but in the meantime, that's one small thing they can do to make each guest experience better. And the great thing is, you know, through your Revinate platform, the technology exists today to analyze text data like reviews and see trends. So as many of you know, Revinate Reputation includes sentiment analysis, which is a text analytics software that identifies topics that are mentioned most frequently in reviews. The software then scores sentiment based on whether the topic was mentioned in a positive, negative, or neutral light. So what you get is a quantitative way to look at traditionally qualitative information. So for example, this is a screenshot from the Revinate dashboard for one of our customers. And as you can see overall, guests are saying some pretty positive things about the hotel, especially the staff and the location. You know, the surrounding area is huge and bold there. But you know, they're making specific comments about the coffee maker, about the internet access, about the iron and board. So these are information points that you can use to your advantage. We had a customer at one point who they were getting some really positive comments about their surrounding area, but they had no information about the surrounding area on their website. So that was, you know, positive marketing intelligence that they can use to their advantage. That's something that guests really like about the hotel, and they can use that to market themselves better. And in the same way, you can use positive mentions to learn, or you know, to learn more about your guest expectations. You can also use sentiment analysis to find areas where you've got some opportunities for improvement that you might not already know about, and this can get really specific. So, for example, for this hotel, they're getting a lot of comments that the elevators are slow, that there's something not quite right with the water pressure or water temperature, or there may be something wrong with their heaters or air conditioning. Those would be specific things that they can check out based on the comments. And we've seen just that level of service make a difference. So we have a customer in Mexico City, Los Suites. They're a 91-room hotel located in an upscale neighborhood. And the hotel stands out in a competitive market by offering a unique apartment style stay. So without compromising on service, so that's one way they're differentiating in their market. And because of this hotel's unique offering, it also relies on a solid base of repeat business travelers. So it's really important to find the data trends in its feedback and make improvements to the hotel based on that feedback. Los Suites signed up with Revinate Reputation to fill this need and to learn more about their guests and their services in general and how their guests were responding to those. And it found, for example, that hotels were consistently complaining about traffic noise. And having found this data in their reputation platform proved that this issue was holding the hotel back from achieving higher levels of guest satisfaction. So they used this data to justify the investment in soundproof windows, and as a result, they saw a huge improvement in average review score as a result of this improvement, but then also some improvements they made in their operations. And in just 6 months, their score increased from a 3.7 to 4.5, and they moved from number 134 to number 51 on the TripAdvisor Popularity Index. So that really paid off for them. So to wrap it up, how should we apply what we've talked about today? So responding to reviews, we talked about, the data is showing that up to about that 40 to 45% response rate is probably your sweet spot before, before you would start to see negative, diminishing returns on your efforts. And you really want to focus on those negative reviews and then your mixed reviews and maybe a few of those glowing positive reviews. You also want to leverage trends in your guest feedback, that we talked about, you can see in your dashboard, and make smart operational investments and changes and adjustments based on what your guests are saying about you. You also want to encourage your guests to write more online reviews, to boost volume and collect more data. We talked about that hotel that went up a whole bunch on TripAdvisor. Part of the formula for that is getting people to write more reviews online. And then ultimately you want to ask yourself, how can I reach out to past guests and encourage them to return or to book again? And one of those ways is to respond to some of those really positive, glowing reviews. All right, but that is all I have for today. If you want to email me about that webinar that I mentioned, about some more in-depth best practices as far as responding to reviews, I'm happy to send you that information. We also have a lot of best practice articles on our blog, which is learn.revinate.com. It's separated out by category, so you can see all our reputation articles, you can see all our marketing articles, you can see all of our guest experience articles. Whatever you want to find out, we have a good source of information there.
Carrie, this was great. Thank you very much for all of the great stats and information. This was excellent. And I know we're running on time, so if anyone has any questions, we will send out the PowerPoint deck after the call, so everyone will have Carrie's information and all the links that are needed to contact Carrie with any questions or to visit the blog. Excellent information, and then we'll go dive deep into it next week as well on Wednesday's office hours on how to use the tool.
Yeah, thanks, Carrie. One thing I think that's key to this is Carrie from Paradise Point just reached out to me this week about creating a reputation management strategy at Paradise Point. And I sent her some of your articles too, but I'm going to actually post the PowerPoint slides online, not just the PDF, because I think the key is, partnering with operations so that they understand this information and the value of monitoring reviews and understanding your competitors' reviews and just what guests are saying about you, and then actually creating an action plan, to help get those numbers up and then ultimately driving revenue. But the key, I think, is, outlining the data that you shared. So I'm gonna post the actual slides so that our team can actually pull that and then present it and share it with their properties too. So thanks for the information. I think it's very valuable. Any questions from the field? Perfect. Okay. Thanks. We only have a couple more slides, but I wanted to just quickly mention our upcoming Marketing Affinity calls. So next month we're going to be covering in-room marketing and guest touch points. July will be F&B marketing. We'll have another KMS in August. In September we're going to talk about shoulder season campaigns. October group marketing. November will be another KMS, and then we'll end with top trends for 2018. The other thing that I wanted to mention is the Marketing Affinity team will be discussing doing the financial acumen for marketing managers to help really set us up for our business planning, budget planning season, which is fast approaching. So if you have any questions or need any help with that, we're going to be setting up some training series on that. So I think that'll be beneficial. And then the other thing the Marketing Affinity team is working on are the toolkits. I think we've all seen the toolkits for leisure and group, but we're rolling out several more. So we're excited to talk about that on our next call. So really that wraps up everything. Is there any questions or comments from the field before we end today's call?
Great information, Katie.
Okay. All right, everyone. Have a great Thursday and happy Cinco de Mayo tomorrow. Bye, everyone.